Greetings, friends, and welcome back to That Garden Place. Today, we're going to talk about something fun. If you have a small space on your patio or you happen to live in an area where you don't have a lot of room, we're going to build something that will help you out a lot if you want to pursue gardening. It's called a tiered garden bed, and it basically is just a series of shelves that basically look like a bookshelf, only for plants. And it works because you're planting things at an angle, everything's naturally going to grow up. And even if you have a shady place, if you use proper plant selection, this type of concept will work. So do me the small favor, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe down below if you like stuff like this, and check out all the other episodes, because we even have a great one coming up next week on Allah's, which is ancient civilization's magic watering system. So you can check that out. So follow along step by step, a quick DIY on building a tiered plant bed. Here we go. It's at this point I realized or recognized that we didn't have any audio. So here I am recording it for you. A little voiceover time. I'm showing you all of the supplies that you'll need for this particular task. As you can see, I've got a circular saw, a tape measure, a Sharpie, a strong angle. I've got a drill for the pilot holes, and I've got a drill driver to drive the construction screws. I also have cedar pickets, which we've used multiple times before. Cedar pickets are wonderfully water resistant and do very well for these kinds of projects that are going to be outdoors full time. You can also use deck screws instead of construction screws. Since this isn't a structural item like a building, I usually don't worry too much about it. But for these projects, like I said, if you want resiliency, deck screws are maybe a better choice. Regardless, we're going to limit this size to an overall eye-level box so that its side rails are 47 inches in height and the pickets themselves are, well, 6 feet. So we can get a lot out of just a few pickets here. We have 9 pickets in total, I believe, for this project. And of course, I lay everything out right there on the boards. That way there's no doubts. And you can see they're marked at 47 inches. Now I'm going to put casters on this, so that'll put it at eye level. I also mark the angles for where the shelves are going to go. And then I also mark where the holes are going to go so that we can space them and put them in the appropriate places. You could actually build an entire solid back if you wanted to, and cut all of your shelves to the same length, which is also essentially cutting the back pieces to the same length, and just add a few more cedar pickets to your shopping list. But I highly encourage you to lay out your planter boxes in this manner, spacing your holes, writing down your spacing, and making it so that one of these is a template, which you could then just flip on top of the other and essentially duplicate all the hole locations that you're about to punch. These holes are marked at about 2.5 inches apart. And by just merely flipping this board on top, we can replicate these on the other board. Saves time. Now we take a look at all of the materials and how they're laid out. And another look at everything that we need for this particular job, including the construction screws. I'm using 2-inch number 8 screws for this job, but again, you can use deck screws if you want more resiliency. As you can see here, everything's marked and ready to cut, and I encourage you to do that as well. By the way, the shelf length that we're using is 34 3/4 inches. Cutting every board to that length will make this a very speedy project. And here we have one last look at everything before we begin cutting and assembling this project, including our measurements here. You can see we've got everything down exactly the way it needs to be. Very exciting. And the layout's all complete. Pretty easy to follow from this point forward, so let's jump into it. Here we go. One of the things that I think I miss about the real sounds, the live sounds when I'm doing something like this, is that I usually speed shots like this up, and you get kind of an ASMR sound because it's faster. It also cuts down the length of the video, yeah, of course I missed the jibber jabbering that I make when I do that, but right now we're just gonna look at these in regular speed and move through them. As you can see, I'm just getting the first two boards prepared, and we'll go through cutting them to length as we get the rails, the sides set up. Finally, we'll start to get into making the template for the drill locations and get that preparation ready. Now it's time to drill these holes, and you can see I've already marked the spacing. I put a little dot where every one of these is going to go, and we're just going to drive through them. Let me see if I can get the camera better for you. There we go. And now we're just going to push through each of these holes. Again, I'm drilling a hole slightly smaller than the construction screw. That way that it can have something to bite into, and it can also bite its way into the shelf. One of the things that I'm going to mention multiple times is that the shelves themselves, we're going to be driving into the end grain, which means they need pilot holes especially. So make sure you take the time to do that as you go through the assembly process as well. But this board is not just being used for, one of the rails, and obviously I'm going to drill each of these locations specifically, but it's going to be used as a template that we're going to flip onto the other board in a moment, and that will make it so we can mark those holes effortlessly. And there we go. 6 done. 9 more to go, I think. Boy, lots of holes. Now we're going to knock out the remaining holes on this particular board. And again, these are the uprights. These are going to be the sides of bookshelves that we're making for these plants, the planter box. The tiered nature of these planter boxes is very simple. If you want to create a longer lasting planter, you can certainly line them with an EPDM food grade pond liner, which usually are available at home stores, but are readily available through Amazon and places like that. What's nice about that is that you don't have to worry about the weed barrier anymore, which we're going to use in this project. The weed barrier isn't there for any other reason than to just kind of, control the flow of water and to keep the soil from moving around too much on these shelves. We want the water to move freely, not necessarily the soil. If you run an entire back on this, which I mentioned before that you could do, it just is about cutting more of those lengths that are equal to the shelves and putting them in the back. You can make a solid back if you want to. And again, one of the ways to control drainage is also drilling drainage holes, which I will be doing at the bottom. And right now in this shot, I have flipped the one side over on the other, and I'm using it as a template to place all of these holes so that they line up in both boards. This is going to make it so much easier for assembly when we're putting this together. I couldn't be more excited than to share this with you, because you can save time on projects by creating templates and all of these little shortcuts that if you weren't a cabinet maker or a construction worker, you probably haven't even thought about before. But I'm just following the same hole patterns that were, there from the other side of the board, and they translate perfectly to the other side of the board. So now we'll move the camera. This is a professional shot right here, guys. Woohoo! All right, and we'll drill these other holes expediently. I do miss that whirring sound. Zzz. Anyway. All right. But for my purposes, the whole thing about this particular type of planting is it can also be somewhat mobile or portable. And it doesn't have to take up a huge amount of your patio. You might want to do some kind of a leg extension on the front of this because these have a tendency to get kind of front heavy. Yeah, of course, it does create a tripping hazard. Or you can just double the width by using 2 pickets next to each other as the sides on each side. That'd give you an 11-inch wide planting box and could service much larger plants or heads of lettuce or things like that. Right now in these shots, I am cutting these to length, so we're getting them down to that 34 and 3/4 inch length that is going to give us a consistent width for this particular planter. Now, as you see here, I'm using a previously cut piece as kind of a template, a marking template. Now, this works if you A, are using a Sharpie, and B, you have very straight lines, and C, you cut on the lines. That's the trick. The Sharpie gives you a line usually about the width of the blade, and if you cut on that line, the width of the blade, then guess what? It actually works. So I'm going to go through a few more of these, but as I do, I'm going to talk about some of the other elements of this project that could enhance not only its durability, but also its usability, especially if you put on a fully backed system and you don't necessarily treat each shelf as its own planter bed. You have, an interconnected network of roots and mycelium and all kinds of things. If you put an olla on each level, a small one, you have your watering taken care of. These are very low maintenance once they're built, and that's just one of the benefits and beautiful things of doing gardening this way. Vertical is the way to go. It's the way of the future. And of course, if you just have a small space that you're working with, it allows you to get a ton of square footage in a small area. And sometimes it's really all you need. A small family garden is something that you can grow on a patio, I know from experience. And when we get into the hydroponics conversations, I'm going to show you how to do that at scale in a way that I don't think anybody really thinks or realizes is possible. We're also going to talk about intensive density planting using a hexagon method in the future. So you're going to want to stick around for that. If you are a raised bed gardener primarily, this is going to be something you're going to be very interested in. Anyway, let's get the rest of these boards cut and jump into assembly. And now a few words about pilot holes. As you can see here, I have a drill bit that's slightly smaller than the threads width on this screw. This is the right way to prevent a lot of tear out, a lot of other issues in the future. It also, since we're going to be drilling into end grain, which is the whole reason I wanted to show you this, I'm using a small bit to drive through the existing pilot hole all the way into the board below. This is the bottom of our shelf, and we need this one to be perfect. So I'm taking my time, I'm pushing the bit down through the wood below, and that way when I drill these screws in, they can draw them in tight and they won't split the wood. Again, end grain, if you want to have a long-lasting project, you definitely, if you have to do this, you have to drive pilots. It's a must. Now we're going to grab our construction screws, and I know a lot of people are like, hey, this isn't, the perfect way to do it. Well, I'm not indoors in the shop. I'm out in nature. It's a beautiful day outside. As you can see, it's a little bit overcast. I'm not having too much sun because there's not too much shadow there. And we're going to use our 2-inch number 8 construction screws. Again, in the long term, these could make the little zinc stains on the wood But the goal here for me, I didn't even bother to take the price stickers off of these. But the goal for me is to just get these cedar picket shelves done today, because I want to show you the project here in just a few moments, and it's very exciting. Again, we're gonna zip through some of this, and once this last screw goes in, we will we'll move on through the shelf assembly. Look, I'm not going to lie. These shelves were not easy. It's not easy to put them in, and it's not going to be easy. If you can figure out a way to make this easier, let me know. But even with templates already, in place and everything else, and pilot holes and all of that, this was not the easiest of projects to do. But that's okay. I don't necessarily enjoy easy things. Maybe laying it down would have been the way to go. I don't know. Look, let's be realistic. This is essentially just a angled bookshelf at this point, and that's really all this had to be. You could actually use a bookshelf and repurpose it, and as long as you had a pond liner to prevent water intrusion into the wood, you can do a lot of things with it. What do you think those racks are that people use to make microgreens on? It's basically a baking tray on one of those baking racks, and that's it. It's straightforward. It doesn't take much to get, plants done the right way and have tons of nutrition available to you and your family all the time. The screw and shelf layout here is all attributable to laying this out in advance. It makes assembly so much easier. Take the time to do that step and you'll be so much happier. We're setting all the plant shelves at a 45-degree angle, and when we put the back on, it'll essentially force the roots downward, but also to spread out. These are essentially small planting beds, and I'll show you how to add some leg extensions if you need to. But again, if this is in a small place, you are going to love having these. They are really beneficial. Looks like I got some of our leaf bags in the shot. Of course, the leaves we collect and then we put them into our compost, and part of an active building of soil structure that I think everybody should be doing. It saves a lot of money down the road. It encourages worms. I'm going to show you some secret concoctions to make this go faster. Some Korean farming method, which is basically just a rice water rinse that you ferment, that you add to your leaf pile, and it helps eat away the leaves. I'll show you all that process. We'll go from there. Now we're working into some of the final shots here where we're installing the backs and squaring everything up and making sure it does look square. It's not cooperating. We've got a breeze here. So it's trying to fall over in between every single bit change and every screw and everything else. But we'll get this done. We'll get this assembled, and then the sound will be restored, and you'll be able to hear the live sounds once more. So here we go. And there we have it. Nearly complete. Doesn't that look remarkably like a pallet? Oh, yeah, that's right. You can repurpose shipping pallets as long as they have anything dangerous on them or spilled on them or anything, or they're not treated with anything. You can use them as vertical gardens as well, and I'll show you how to do that in a future video. But for now, all we need to do is add some legs to this for stability, and we're done. And for that, we're going to employ the Table of Doom once more as our work surface. Now, we had a few pieces of leftover lumber from our cedar pickets, in fact 2 of them exactly the same size, which look like they'll make a nice pair of stabilizing legs, so let's test them out. And what do you know? It actually worked out. One leg down, one more to go. Now let's get her done. And there we blow. One completed project. And there she is, our vertical garden. Now in an upcoming short, I will also show you how to prepare it for soil and for plants, and I'll have some recommendations about shady locations or full sun locations. Keep your eye out. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, this is a great time to do so. And now off to more planting. So if you enjoyed the video today, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, as I mentioned before, hit the subscribe button down below. And if you're interested in gardening, or if you have any tips or tricks that you want to share, be sure to leave them in the comments. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, we will see you on That Garden Place.